What's going on, people? If you're looking for sample packs full of percussive grooves, then look no further than my website. The link's in the description, and whilst you're there, you can use code YouTube20 to get 20% off absolutely everything. Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go through, without doubt, my most requested video, which is mixing kick and bass. Now, before we get started, this is literally just the way that I do it, and my techniques. There's no right or wrong way, as long as you think it sounds good. So take what you can from this video and apply it to your own to your own tracks. So first of all, we'll start with the kick. So with 9 out of 10 tracks of mine, the kick will have minimal processing on. So usually just utility to put it in mono. So it's hitting down the middle. Pro Q, which is just an EQ. Usually roll off below around 20. It's on 23 on this track, and then just EQ where feels necessary, always around the 400 K mark, and then yeah, just judging by whatever the kick might want to take a little bit of high end off, might want to increase the high end. It just literally depends on the kick, but the main thing with the kicks I use, I always try and pick a kick that I like and not a kick that I have to process a lot. So yeah, I've got tons of good kicks in my sample packs, but other kicks I use, the Nozo kicks, they're really good. Gino Dakota's kicks, they're exceptional as well. So yeah, they're probably like the two other packs I'll use other than my own. So yeah, and I'll usually like rotate between 4 or 5 different kicks. You know, might even make 4 or 5 tracks with the same kick. So yeah, so this kick is nice and punchy. It's the perfect foundation for the track. I always put my kick to begin with at about -10 dB. Always think that's a really good place to start with the kick. And then we move on to the bass. So I'll just remove the processor and I'll go for them one by one. The plugin and the synth we're using for this bass is Zenology. Now I've done a complete other video on Zenology, so I'm not going to go through this plugin on this video. Go check that other video out. It's on the Rolling Cloud. Really cool plugin. This is the Compu BS patch. As you can see, I've not done anything with it. It's just the standard patch. So this is like what you'll see here is literally my bass chain, which I use on the majority of basses. So we start off with utility. Now this is in bass mono. Now for those who don't know, essentially what this does is puts anything below the setting here in mono. So on the kick, we had the utility with mono, which is putting the whole sound in mono. With this, you can adjust where you want the mono to end. There's a few other plugins that do this as well, but utility is fine to use that. I've then just got an EQ8, so standard Ableton EQ. So on this bass, we're getting just that subbiness. And then the next plugin I use is Track Spacer. So I'm actually using this as a sidechain. So with this, use the high cut to set where we want it, and then yeah, just use the amount, and you can, you know, the visual shows exactly what it's doing. So yeah, using this as a sidechain, but you can use Kickstart, you know, LFO tool, sorry, anything like that works, you know, in the same sort of way. So we've got EQ8, Track Spacer. The next is the Waves linear phase multiband compressor, and we are we've dialed the threshold in on this, so it's -11 dB, and then we've got the divot off, the makeup auto, so it's auto making up, adaptive off, release arc, and then behavior we've got electro and the knee hard. Yeah, so with this, what we're trying to do is just sort of compress. You know, you can use this to set where you want this low section to do its thing. So we've got it set around 100-ish, 110, and like I say, threshold -11. This is just trying to keep that bottom part, those low frequencies, just compress them, make them nice and tight, and just keep the bass feeling like quite like glued together, and works nicely alongside the kick. I actually got that plugin from a Late Replies group. They recommended it and they used it on their bass. I'm not sure if they still do, but yeah. So I started using it and I've just used it ever since. The next, I've got another compressor, so Pro C2 by 5 Filter. So on this, we've got the threshold -15 dB, ratio at 4:1, the attack at 4 milliseconds, release at 209. Yeah, again, just dial this in, gain stage it as well where necessary. So I'll just take those two compressors off. So just making that bass like nice and tight and just bringing out that subbiness through those two compressors. Now, with the linear phase multi-brand compressor, we're only compressing parts of it, whilst with the Pro C2, we're compressing the full sound. Again, feel free to take yeah, to use these settings as a starting point for your track as well. With each track, dial that bass in and those plugins in. And then we've got our bass from Waves. So this really is just adding that like extra harmonics into the track. Sometimes it can be a bit overpowering. On this occasion, we've got the frequency at 47. So what this is doing here is essentially setting where this is going to affect. So 47 hertz. So if you're not sort of familiar with that sort of stuff, you could look on an EQ. 20 hertz is here. So yeah, 40 is going to be like here. So that's sort of where that's doing its thing, is in this section. So I'll just take the 4 plugins we've got. I'll keep the EQ on, but I'll take these 4 plugins off so you can hear the difference. So we're just beefing it up. They're not, every time you add something, or every time I add these plugins on, I'm not looking for it to like completely change the sound. It's just like little increments that make it sound like fatter, glue it a little bit better, and just overall make the bass fit nicer in the mix. And then to finish, we have another EQ. So with this, essentially what we're trying to do is take that bit of weariness, that bit of muddiness out of the bass. So you can just like hear how much tighter that feels now. Let me play it with the kick and bass. play it in the mix. And our bass is around minus 13.5. So I always look between like minus 15 and minus 13. Usually go more towards 40, minus 4, yeah, like minus 4, somewhere in the middle. So we probably like lower this a little bit. So to me now that feels like it's sitting like really nice in the mix. If we took what we've just done off, you'll sort of hear the difference. For any of you watched my videos before or done lessons with me, you'll know that I try and keep things as simple as possible. So these plugins are almost what I'll use on every single track. There's an odd occasion I might swap one out, but yeah, you know, these are what I use. And to be honest, with majority of these, you could swap them out for something an able to stop plugin. So track spacer, you could use it like the compressor, and just click this little button on the compressor and then sidechain it. You could use like a glue compressor for replace these two compressors, and then maybe use like a saturator instead of our bass, and obviously just use the EQ8 again for the Pro Q on the end. So yeah, don't be put off by the fact that I might have some plugins here that you don't have. Yeah, you can get a basically similar result from using stock Ableton plugins without a doubt. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. Like I say, a lot of people have asked me about kick and bass and mixing, and I think it's one of them subjects that people struggle with. And trust me, I still struggle with it sometimes when I'm making music. Sometimes the bass just does not sit right with the kick, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. And as usually say with that, maybe just look at your drums in that case. But yeah, this is how I process my kick and bass. If you've got any questions or any comments or anything, just drop them down below, and don't forget to give the channel a subscribe. It's really appreciated, and I'll catch you at the next one. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, click on the link here to watch another.